everybody, and welcome to Host at Media City. We are here to introduce to you a parallel obsession, an obsession with kit, and the filming filming a documentary with some very incredible kit, and equally the obsession of making some really exclusive sneakers or bringing them back into usable form. I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping and then introduce you to the panel members. But first off, we'll show you the film. So in the housekeeping, if you could turn your phones off, which I'll do as well, because we're recording this for a podcast. And you will have an opportunity for questions later on. And we are live, by the way, so no swearing. What we're going to do first is show you the film. There's one person in the film that couldn't be here, Robert Brooks, so we're going to give him a thanks for being part of it. An incredible brain, mind, collector, obsessive. But then I'll also introduce you to the team, the other members of the team who put it together. Just to explain who I am, I'm Gary McLarnon. I run a company called Sparkle Street, and I work for adidas for 17 years now, and I deliver productions and create content and work alongside a bunch of the teams in adidas to do everything from the obsessive niche stuff like this to the commercial activations and shows and productions that you might come across. I think other than that, are there any housekeeping about the use of the space? If an alarm goes off, you're going out that door and following me down to the front of the building. No smoking, no vaping, and please feel free to if you need to use the toilets, it's out in the corridor through that door, and someone will assist you if you get trapped on the other side with the automatic doors. So should we just move to play the film and then bring everybody up?
Definitely sort of opened up my mind to potentially where trainers are going to go, because at that time it was the beginning of Adidas reissuing old shoes, opening the door to another world. I think trainers have always been a part of my life. They've always been there at many a moments and many a journeys that I've been on. So I think the preservation of them almost coincides with how we exist. It's part of the journey. What's happening? You all right?
That's good, we'll be all right. Nice to see you, man. Got something to show you.
Come on in, give us an overview. Oh, wow, these are a bit worse for wear, aren't they?
Yeah. So these are definitely legit, yeah? It's the real Ostrich.
Yep, these are real.
Got this.
The suede lining,
Right.
the Ostrich, even like the embroidery on the back. They're legit, 100%. Just a bit worse for wear, but I tell you, it's like, I hope mine don't end up like this.
Yeah, they've gone to cake. Yeah.
Like biscuits.
You don't have to be that cool. Just when I met you, a couple cuts later, now you're acting like a damn fool, So ungrateful, I sit you at my table, now you're hugging all the damn fool. So good, the blame is on you. There's no need to act like you still going to school and breaking all the rules. I'll take you back to class when I say you had your back in the beginning.
my understanding is that this pair had been not been made in one of the bigger Adidas factories in Germany. It was actually made at the birthplace of Adidas. It was made by a small team of people that would have known Adi Dassler himself, that were still producing one-off editions for athletes, kind of bespoke shoes for specific sports, in a way that Adi Dassler would have been familiar with himself. They were tasked with producing 100 pairs of this premium ostrich leather shoe, designed to be almost unattainable.
It was the year 2000, it was coming up to like Christmas time. Yeah. That was a day of walking in the West End and walking down Newburgh Street, and I've walked past the shop, and in the window there was this brown pair of shoes sat on a gold box. I was just like, what's that? And then I've looked at it and I've realised it's the Kegler, but it didn't look like the Kegler that we normally know and love, which was white and blue. This was like brown.
There were some on sale, and that some people could buy them, but there weren't very many. And if you were lucky and you had that amount of money, then you could purchase them.
So I've gone inside and looked at it, and it was like ostrich skin, and it was just like, this was a whole nother level of... This was taking trainers beyond the realms of where they were at the time. At that time, it was much more like the classic shoes that you know. This was going in... When I looked at it, for me, it just said opulent. It said premium, it said quality.
About trying to mark this, they were looking at the originals side of Adidas and saying, look, we can do something really, really, really special here to celebrate this. That will get a lot of attention, that will take a stand or a position, let's say, take a position as, you know, this is the premium, this is the pinnacle of what you could own. This isn't about sports, this is about rarity, scarcity, this is about unaffordable kind of statement that you can make if you get a pair of these shoes.
Yeah, it was a statement piece. So as a collector, you're thinking, right, I need to get this because this is saying a lot. Well, I think first and foremost, I wanted it. And that was the first hurdle. It's like, right, I want this. And now I'm just going to go and find out. And then obviously they've explained how much it costs, and it was just like, wow. Okay.
That they gave it a price. They priced it at 1,949 German Deutschmarks, which would be around £600 at the time. And they priced it that because that was the year, I believe, Adidas had become the trefoil branded company that it is today.
So I knew I had something, I had the opportunity to purchase something that was very special. So I was like, if I walk away from this, someone else could come and get it. So then I knew that if I'm going to do it, I've just got to do it. So I did it. There's only 100 pairs in the world. It's like, I have to have one. So yeah, it's one of those lucky one of 100 people.
As I understand it, it was the first of its kind in that respect, in the sense that it was unattainable, ostentatious, and the most collectible thing a sneaker or a trainer collector could have owned at that time.
I think as soon as I walked out, I was like, yes, they're mine. They're mine. I didn't try it on because I knew I wasn't going to wear it. It was something that, for me, was more of it was an object, it was a statement, rather than this is something that I'm going to put on my feet, because I knew I was never going to wear it. And previously, before that, I didn't see trainers like that.
It had been lasted by hand. It had brass tacks in the heel, where they had lasted the upper over. They'd actually used nails, and so they would have put it onto a last with a metal bottom so that the tacks would be folded over. It had a full suede lined leather lining, which is very unusual in an Adidas trainer. It had gold plugs. It had an outsole rubber that I'd never seen on any other Adidas.
This almost took it to another place, because to see a shoe lined with, say, suede, that's just not normal. That wasn't normal. How am I going to put my foot into a shoe that is lined with suede? It's almost, and it was the most soft, supple suede, but it almost, I don't know, I just wasn't going to put my foot into it. So it just felt luxury to the point where you're not going to use it. Say it becomes more of an object rather than something to wear.
I was asked if I could repair the sole on a pair of the Ostrich Keglers. It will never, you couldn't even, exhibit it somewhere for everyone to enjoy unless you wanted to see it kind of as crumbled midsole and things like that.
Over the years, some of my most favourite shoes have had those moments where the midsole's completely gone. And you kind of reach a point where you have to say to yourself, this is just a part of the journey. And the moment that you had probably when you got it, and for however long you had it, that was the moment. And then it takes on like another part of the journey.
First and foremost, anything that I restore, I want someone to be able to wear. It's really important to me. It doesn't matter if someone's going to, I'm never going to wear that because it's too valuable to wear it. That doesn't matter. It has to be, you have to do it properly. So glues have to stick, you have to prepare the surfaces properly. All of those things have to come together so that someone could wear it if they wanted to wear it. We're going to rebuild this and we're going to do it as close as we can, like for like, with the original materials. Even if they're new, at least it will be, these were made in Germany, in a German manufacturer, and it probably would have been the same manufacturer that Adidas went to get the soling in the first place. So there's a nice circular kind of touching base with all of those parts of the history of the shoe. I think I can see somebody with it, underneath that head office, tapping away and working on this project, thinking, "Whoa, this is good, isn't it?" Like, I'm just about to retire, and they've given me this job of showcasing my skills on this really expensive leather. It's not, no one's going to do bowling in these. No one's going to do high jumping. It's not a tennis shoe. It's not for any of those things. This is just my turn to make something like a piece of art. Something amazing, and will stand the test of time. The first thing that I need to do is I need to remove the part of the shoe that's falling apart. So that's the midsole that's gone all kind of gluey, cakey-like texture to it, and it's really sticky. So I want to remove all of that so that I can get another one from a donor pair of shoes and glue that to the bottom. So I need to take that off without getting any of that mess on top of the upper or in the lining or anywhere else. So I will pull most of it off with my hands. I will use a knife to scrape it off. When I'm getting close to the upper, I want to get lots of talcum powder or French chalk onto it to take any stickiness away from it. Once that's done, we want to glue all the new components. So in the case of the component that I was using from a donor shoe, I had to get rid of the outsole on that, and it was stuck so tight and so well that I had to grind it off. So I would cut that with a knife and then use a scouring machine and grind much of that off till I've just got the midsole, because I'm going to be replacing that outsole with the authentic German outsoling that I've sourced. I've got to put a wedge from the forefoot back to that midsole, because they would have had a sheet EVA piece that was tapered towards the toe, and so we would line that up with the midsole with all the pegs in it, and we would taper it towards the toe and then glue the outsoling onto that. And the last bit would be to take this little strip of foxing and I kind of taper that as well, so it's just the right thickness, so it's the same thickness as the original would have been, and then wrap that around the toe piece. The traditional way of working isn't very quick, but there's a lot more kind of feeling going on with your hands, that you have a kind of memory, or you develop a memory of how to treat the leather, how to treat the upper, how to kind of get the shape that you want. And sometimes when I work, I can just feel when things are right. So when I'm putting a sole on, it's more about putting my hands over the top of the shoe and feeling the shape of the shoe and where the sole is, and then I know it's in place. So for me, it's very familiar, and it made me feel like I kind of had a connection with the people who obviously made it in the first place.
There hasn't been a moment like that. I'm not saying there's been loads of amazing moments and loads of amazing experiences, but I think, like I said earlier, it was kind of at the beginning of a new phase. I think it opened people's eyes to possibility and difference, and the idea of that you can have something traditional, but you can progress it to totally new places without it being some sort of random design. You can take inspiration from the past to create a new future. So you either keep going or you stop, but it doesn't stop, so we just keep going. And I say those memories, like even talking about it today, it's like you think back to that point and it's like, that was 25 years ago. But I still have that, I still hold that moment, that experience, so it can't be taken away from me, can it? So we just keep going.
So we're just going to shuffle some chairs around and get everybody up here. So we've got Benji, who was in the film, Stu from Black Magic Design, and Alex, the DOP, and basically the person who shot that film. Just so I can get an understanding of who's in the room, so we can talk at the right pitch or in the right form. Who's going to confess that they're a film tech geek, cinema tech geek? Hands up.
Please hold it close to your mouth.
Few people in the room giving that away. Who's the sneaker geeks in the room? Oh, come on. You've got to have some obsession here. Who's both? Who's both? Okay, well, I didn't want to skew it one or either way unless there was people in the room to receive that kind of geekdom. So hopefully the conversation we're going to have right now covers some of those parts, but we'll give you an opportunity to ask the questions that we should have asked later on. So just to give you a bit of context, I work primarily now on Adidas Spezial and a few campaigns for Adidas, so therefore touch into heritage a lot with some great people around us. And I met Benji many years ago when we were doing the Adidas Blackburn, and he was personalising some of those shoes for us to commemorate that particular moment in time. And we carried on working together for a few years on different projects related to Spezial, but also other parts of the brand. And ultimately, we did the decade anniversary fairly recently of the Spezial range in Darwin. And yes, and Benji came up and he made a toy, which we made with some young people, basically a toy version of the Blackburn shoe. We also did some modifications, and we did a lot of education and outreach around that. And it was also the place that Benji and I kind of had a conversation about maybe setting up a workshop that did things like this, which was recover shoes and bring them back into use, potentially for wearing, but equally for exhibiting, but also start to work on one-of-ones, and we called it One-of-One Workshop. One-of-One Workshop is based at the Yard in Cheetham Hill, and thanks to Mark and Joe at the Yard, they hosted a lot of that filming there, and introduced us to Stu. And as a byproduct of that, we had the conversation about there's an obsession here with tech and the amazing kit that Blackmagic Design have, and also an obsession with the narrative and the documentary, and that's where we are today. So the people in the room on the panel, Stu is at the end there in the blue Adidas jacket, being on brand. Alex in the middle, and Benji here. So I'm just going to refer to some questions that are scripted, so I don't lose track and just end up going down one particular avenue. So give me a second. I don't normally do this, but we couldn't get Nihal to come and do it because he's doing something else today. So let's talk about design, craft, sneaker history for a minute, if we can. And I'm going to focus on Benji for now, but we're going to move across the panel. So we need to get the microphone over to Benji.
Oh, right. Sorry.
You're known for the obsessive custom work and sneaker personalization. How did you approach this particular shoe that we did? Explain the bit that we haven't been able to put into the film, because this is a really, really long narrative. But what drove you to spend the time? You know, it's an unaffordable amount of time to recover a shoe from where it was to where it is. So what drives you to make that really happen?
I think I look at everything that I do as learning, and I'm still learning every day, and one day I'll make the perfect trainer, and then I'll probably have to make another trainer that's even more perfect or something like that. And I think when someone gives you an opportunity to work on something that's really risky because it's worth so much money that, you know, you could just slip or lose concentration and ruin it, that's exciting. And to work with, over the past sort of 8-9 years, I've always tried to kind of hunt through bargain bins for bits of offcuts of leather and things like that. To work with something that was so premium was interesting. So I'd never worked with anything like that before. I knew a little bit about the shoe already, and I thought I'd get to kind of see under the bonnet a little bit on the shoe, and that was exciting.
And in terms of the world outside, you know, we're in this realm of hype and super exclusives and rarities and modern reinventions of shoes. So what difference does it make to do a shoe like this then? Really, you know, it's not for an audience of buyers, really, is it?
No, I mean, they talked about it a bit in the film. It was the first of its kind, I think, and I remember reading about it. I don't think I actually saw it, like Robert in the film talks about actually seeing it in a shop. I didn't see it in a shop, but I certainly was aware of it. And no one had seen anything quite like that before. You know, it was now there's collabs with all kinds of fashion houses and famous people, and it's not unusual to see a shoe costing £600 or more. But back then, it really was something special. So it broke the mold, really. And more than that, the fact that they chose this shoe, which was a bowling shoe, a really boring sport, underneath a pub in Germany. It was associated with, you know, kind of a past Germany, but it also represented the sports, the way that Adi Dassler himself would work specifically on a sport rather than just a generic shoe. And so that was quite interesting from my perspective as a collector as well as a maker. It was like, okay, this is the first of any of those things, and so that has to be documented. It has to be seen. It has to be potentially worn, and that's why I wanted to do that. So
we're in a realm now where, you know, normally approaching documenting something like this, it would be clips, social content, destined for Vimeo, destined for YouTube, not necessarily approached in the way that this did. What was it that? How did you translate from what you were doing? Because I know you make micro content into what became the conversation you had with Stu, to really get to the point here, which is a longer descriptive narrative and a high-end level of inspection and intense amount of detail?
Well, we'd only just moved in, and we were building the workshop up, and that's when I met Stu. And it actually took 2 meetings initially, just between us, to kind of work out if it could be done. And he introduced me, to Alex's content already, which was amazing. I don't know very much about cameras and things like that, but it started this kind of ball rolling. In how do you tell the story? So there's multiple stories about Robert's story from a collector's point of view, but also the story of refurbing the shoe, and the original story that we found out about subsequently from me talking to the people in Germany that actually designed the shoe and went through that whole process. And then it was like, well, how do I? If we're going to shoot one day, how do I get all the bits that need to be ready to show what's involved in that? And then it was having conversations with Alex when he would come in and look at the space and try to work out what shots he could get, if there was a local curry cafe around the corner or something like that, where we could meet, have a bit of a Western type face-to-face thing, I don't know. It was so we had 2 or 3 meetings, I think, like that, and trying to work out, okay, the glues need to dry in a certain time, things have to be prepped, one shoe's going to have to be kind of half finished so that you can see all the stages, and then you did actually have to come back to get both shoes shot together on a separate occasion. So yeah, that for me, that was a different way of working, because normally I would just work, just do the job that I'm doing and move on, to the stage that's next. And then with this one, it was like, okay, you're going to have to really think and break it down into steps that can work with the film, so that you shoot once. When all those people are there and the lenses cost 150 grand and there's 12 people in your studio, and there's haze setting off fire alarms.
So can we pass that on to Alex then and just ask that question? So Alex, in terms of the macro of where you approach this, what was the rule book? Did you apply a known method, or did you actually adapt something specifically for this narrative?
Well, it was really intense in the workshop, because obviously when the age of the shoe and everything like that, Benji's process is a one-off thing, so you can't just go, can you just go back and redo that sole? It's a one chance opportunity. So we had to light the space and approach it a bit differently to how I would usually do something. But yeah, it was an intense day, wasn't it? But we got it done. So, and then I wanted to incorporate all my other sort of my fashion aspect into the way I do things, and narrative, and just put all those pieces into one project. So
did that passion extend into your obsession with the item, or was that just you looked at it technically and thought, well, if I've got to explain I wrote down the love letter experience, was there a method you just went off the shelf, or was it something else?
No, not really. We had to think on the spot quite a lot. I wanted to approach the whole project as a bit of a love letter to craftsmanship and the passion for what Benj and Rob had towards the shoe, and just approach it in that sort of way, really. And
then the step up to the level of quality, detail and technology you used, that's not normal to apply that level of effort to this kind of project. So where did that come in?
Well, yeah, go on.
So I think what's really important is that when you're actually when you're looking at a topic like this, what you realise is that you've got something in front of you that people are really passionate about, and from a filmmaking perspective, it's not just about capturing a narrative, but it's also about having a sense of making sure that you give it the respect that it's due and it needs. We're talking about something that there's 1 of 100, and the thing that where we are now on the 3rd of November, which was on Monday, which was 25-year anniversary of the shoe. The thing we actually don't know right now is how many of those 100 shoes are left. So it's not very often that you end up in an environment where you're faced with something so rare and something so important and something so significant that then actually goes on and kind of takes Adidas in a direction. So for me, when I met Benj the first time, the initial meeting was that I walked into his studio and I was talking to Benj about something completely different. And Benji had this pair of shoes sat on his counter which were falling apart. And Benj said to me, he goes, Stu, look at these. And I went, what on earth are those? And at that point, I think what was really interesting was that, going back to what Gary was saying about social media and about the way the world is right now, there was no information on this shoe. So you can't go and dig through archives and find things. The only thing you can do is go and try and find people who remember what happened 25 years ago. And I think there was one bit of information on the internet, which was about 4 paragraphs, wasn't it, which explained the history of the shoe. So I said to Benjamin, do not fix that shoe. Don't fix that shoe. And he looked at me, I think, in a bit of a funny way. And I said to him, the reason why I don't want you to fix that shoe is because what you have right there is something that is actually really important, that needs to be documented in a way that not only will look beautiful, but will also give the respect to this shoe that it deserves, and also for all of the people that are passionate about this brand, can watch and feel like we've treated it with the love, the attention and the care that it needs. So being a director at Blackmagic Design, and having access to these amazing technological items, I mean, we have the 17K camera here. I had no other thought in my mind than what we were going to do was shoot this in the highest possible quality. So we onboarded with us some partners to help us get the lenses, and I think at one point we had about £500,000 worth of lenses sat on the table, didn't we? And you know, we're bringing in a professional sort of film crew to shoot this. And when I'd spoken with Alex, and my relationship with Alex is one out of seeing the work that he's done being very stylistic, what I also didn't want this to be was just another run-of-the-mill sort of cookie cutter type project. I didn't want it to look like everything else that you've seen. So you'll notice that the style that Alex has approached is to make it very, very warm in certain areas. You'll see that throughout the course of the 15 minutes, there are probably 3 or 4 different scenes where the color tones change quite significantly. The saturation changes quite significantly. The interview with Rob, obviously Rob turns up and he's wearing, you know, these incredible clothes, you know, and he's wearing a shirt which is like from a filmmaker's perspective, typically would be an absolute nightmare to film. But what it actually did is it tested the equipment that we had to the core values of what as a manufacturer we were trying to achieve. So for me, this was about making sure that it had the love and it had the respect, but equally we were going to put everything through its paces and we were going to not leave any stone unturned. So
just on the technology, because there's obviously a few people in the room who are sneaker geeks and therefore not tech geeks. Basically, if you're raising that ceiling of technology and use, and this is a question partly for you, but then to switch to Alex, where does it stop? And actually, what does it give Alex in terms of the ability to do something he's not been able to do if he was using, let's take it right down to Sony A7s or whatever it is that people might use on a daily basis?
So this camera is a camera that it wouldn't look out of place sat on the next Marvel production. I mean, this is like the highest of the highest possible camera that you could shoot with. We're shooting, everyone is familiar with Ultra HD 4K. Well, we're talking about 17K, so we're talking about a significantly higher resolution. What that means is that not only are you generating a huge amount of data recording this, but you also have a huge amount of information, and you also have a scale of image that can be cropped in, and you can really kind of focus in nice and tight. So we can take that 17K image and we can punch into that 17K image down to 4K or to 8K or whatever resolution we want and maintain that quality. And that was important because when we're talking about the stitching, when we're talking about certain aspects of the material, you know, when it comes to fashion, for me, the most important thing about fashion is that when you're watching it on a TV, you're feeling the senses of what that actually is. Touch and feel, that sense of texture is so important to you when it comes to fashion that's why we went down this road. because we didn't want to leave any of that detail behind. We wanted to take that detail with us.
I mean, you answered my question. You answered it there
No,
perfectly.
Well, I'm interested in how you, having that extra capacity, how you kind of considered what you were able to do because of it, in terms of the colouring, in terms of managing the whole process end to end, and what it gave you that perhaps, in terms of story, narrative, and context, that wouldn't have been there otherwise.
Yeah. Well, the most important thing for me about the documentary was the detail of the ostrich leather. I mean, it's something that I've never seen before on a shoe, that kind of leather, with all the details and the bumps and the lumps and everything like that. And with that camera, with being able to punch in and get every single bit of detail that you could possibly get, I think was really important for the shoot. Yeah, that's it really. It was more like the detail and the colour, everything about it was, yeah.
So let's strip away the 1 of 100 shoe, the item. There's a human story here, and that's one that nobody's going to be able to own a pair of these. So the film becomes a way of people being able to connect to it and own a part of it. Was that a fundamental part of the narrative, and how easy was that to portray?
It was quite easy to portray because, so speaking to Rob, you could just hear his passion just like oozing out, couldn't you? And you can see it in the video when we asked him the question about, do you remember the first time you saw the shoe, and he just had this big smile on his face. And capturing the personality between Rob and Benj was just so easy because, well, you talk so passionately when you're doing it. So
I think with Rob as well.
Oh, sorry.
That's right. I mean, with Rob, he's a collector. He's got thousands of pairs of shoes, and so he is passionate already. So he's already at a level, and then with this shoe, that's what comes across. So how different this shoe is to all of those other shoes that were made in factories where they may have made, thousands and thousands of pairs, and how that shoe stopped him in his tracks. And because the collectors, I mean, some people are motivated by having something that's exclusive, hard to get hold of, or its actual worth, and some people want to complete a collection. And then some people, and I think Rob's one of these people, he's in love with trainers. He just, it's a childhood memory thing that you had when you didn't get any decent trainers because you had to go to Woolworths and there wasn't any good trainers. So to go on that journey in your life of collecting and documenting, which is what he does, and then kind of see a pair like that, and then, well, I'm going to go off a bit here, but to see them then, fall apart as well. It's just part of that life cycle. And I think for Rob, one of the things that he said, he didn't think that on his pair that he would ever restore them. So it was quite interesting for me, that, because I felt like it was, should you restore it, or should you just try and wrap it up nicely in some cellophane or something to stop the crumbs going everywhere? So for some people it would be, I want to wear them. I want them to look as close as they did originally. And then for other people it might not be necessary. So there was always going to be a little bit of a conflict there. And I don't own a pair. I just wanted to work on them. That was a simple equation for me to make. It's just like I get to take the sole off this and see what it's like.
So I'm going to make a comment at the moment. So one of the things about this project, which is really unusual for Adidas, is that we weren't planning to release a pair of Kegler Super or to line this in to any retail or wholesale plan. This was just one of those situationist moments of just going, let's just do it because we can do it. And that's been the joy of doing this project, is that sometimes you just I need to take myself away from the commercial realms that I get wrapped up in so often, and I deliver a lot of projects around fashion, sport, and music. But there's quite a lot of joy in doing this, even though I don't feel I was fundamentally needed. It was nice to be associated, and obviously I've assisted as time's gone on. But one of the things about this that we've done now is we've made a statement, we've repositioned an idea and brought it back in. But what I know is that there's loads of other things that wanted to be in this amongst the passion and the team that can't be in 15 minutes. Or we discovered in the process of delivering that we now go, oh, episode 2. So can you just each take a comment on where you're at with that?
So what you're seeing as a finished product and as a production is only a fraction of the journey that we've been on as a group. I think that when you take into consideration that point that we made before about the lack of information that already existed, as part of the research, you've got to go and dig back. You've got to go and find those people. You've got to go and find people that own it. You've got to find people that knew about it. You've got to find a person who knows a person who knows a person. And for me, and I'm not sure about the other guys, but the research part of it was actually as fun as the making of it, because there was a moment in time where in your mind you're thinking this is the narrative that we want to tell, but then you get introduced to somebody else who introduces you then to somebody else who introduces you to somebody else, and you end up on a phone call with somebody, and you may have in your mind 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 different myths about this thing, and that individual goes, so this is what happened, and that's what happened, and we did this, and we did that, and we did it, and you kind of go, oh my gosh, this guy has just now given me a whole area that I didn't really knew existed about this shoe. And for me, what that is it's part of being able to get into the minds of the people that were behind this. I mean, we're talking 25 years ago. I mean, there'll be some people, that will watch this but weren't born when this shoe was made. And when you then start talking to people who were involved in it 25 years ago, it's almost kind of like you see them flashing back. You see them where they've maybe moved on in their careers, or they've moved on in their life, or they've done something significant since. And they don't actually really stop to think about this significant moment that they made 25 years ago. And then when you start having a conversation with them, the next day you get a photograph of where they've gone and pulled their box out of the wardrobe and taken a photograph of the pair that they own, and they sent it to you. And they go, I've not taken this out of the wardrobe for 15 years. And I think that for me was something that was really, really special. But as we kind of then look at moving this forward, the interviews that we got with Rob, I mean, there's so much stuff there in interview that didn't make it, where you just go, wow, I could just sit and listen to Rob talk about this for an hour because of his passion. But equally, then you start to look at the other people that you met on the journey that weren't shown on the film, that I know that if I got them in front of a camera and we had the same conversation, for those people that enjoy this 15-minute film would quite happily sit and watch for an hour and a half, because their stories are equally compelling.
You got any comments on that, Alex?
No, I think just I'd love to go to Germany and film with Michael and the designer. So yeah, that would be, and also with Rob, there was literally 2 hours worth of footage that we had to cut out of it and actually stick to the story of what was at hand, rather than the journey that you guys have been on. So I'd like to delve into that as well.
So just a bit of basis for just to be clear, the anniversary of Adi Dassler's this shoe release and Adidas, what would have been Adi Dassler's 125th birthday, was on the 3rd of November. So we leaked this out on the 3rd of November as a 15-minute piece. Not making a big fanfare about it because we wanted to do this, but equally, Benji and I have been talking about it particularly because there's B-roll there that will come out as clips, but there's also this ASMR narrative of the shoe being made, where we've got really incredible detail of the tearing apart and putting back together of the shoe. So the intention is that there will be halo footage coming out between now and however long it persists, which we hope is a long time. Whether we go on to follow-on narratives is TBC, and maybe Adidas wants to fund that, or another realm wants to take it forwards. But I just wanted to move it on a little bit, because I do want to go to audience questions. But there's one thing I remember a great interviewer telling me to do, and that's to ask each of you, what was the question I should have asked you but I didn't? And if each of you can just come up with a response to that. pass it on until you can think about it. If you
Stu's got something I know.
What was the question? What was the question you should have asked me? You should have asked me whether or not I'm happy with it.
Oh, okay. What, on a scale of 0 to 125?
So I'm incredibly proud of what's been achieved, and I feel like it's opened a door to something that, for me, is not the end of a journey. It's the start of a journey. I feel like when you combine Benji's knowledge of how to rebuild the shoe and you know, when you're watching somebody who is so passionate about what they do their thing, and you stood there on the sidelines and you're watching that happen, and you're seeing the touch and the feel and the way in which he's working. I'm proud for him that hopefully comes across in the film. When you look at the way in which Alex shoots again, and the level of detail, and sometimes the insecurity around, do you think they'll like it? Do you like it? You know, are we okay with it? Again, it's the passion. But I for me, I'm very proud of where we've got with it. What I would say is that there's so much more. There is so much more in this project.
Alex?
I don't know.
It's actually because what Stu was saying made me think about it a bit more, and the question is, I think, to do with how Stu has come to this, how Stu has come to this, and how Alex has come to this. So with Stu, it's an obsession with Adidas trainers and a passion for the silhouettes and all those sorts of things, a very specific thing. You know, you might wear running shoes, but there's a look to a 1970s Adidas shoe that appeals to a certain type of person, and it's a cultural reference and all the rest of it. So that is why you want to be involved. And for speaking about Alex, to find out that Alex is, you know, kind of self-taught, I find amazing, and that he just when we first met, we just talked about films for ages, didn't we? Because that's what it was. It was a passion thing. It's like you love films, and so you wanted to learn how to make them, and you didn't go down a traditional route to do that. And it's the same for me with the shoes. It's exactly the same. And I suppose that's the question. But also, I was going to say that the people that helped me to learn to make shoes or fix shoes are the people that got us in touch with the people. And it's on trips to rubber factories and things like that allowed us to find the right products that they would have used. So it was like it was all meant to be.
Just on that one as well, I think that's the other part of it as well, is that you're looking at, you know, a small team of people that put it together, but the amount of people that Benj knows particularly, who've been involved in providing us with the contacts and the information, actually means that there is a whole load of shareholders to this beyond the people you see in here, which then puts pressure on you to make sure that you actually deliver something that's pretty good.
Alex, you got a question, or do you want me to ask you?
You can ask me one.
All right, so I do have one question, which has come to my head since then. So I'm thinking about like the next generation of makers, you know, whether that's technical or whether that's DOP or whether that's a maker. What bit of advice would you give to someone who's just approaching this from the other end and thinking, I could do that?
I think if you're passionate enough and you love what you do, just keep going and just keep creating and just enjoy the process. Most exciting bit is the journey, I think. So, yeah, just keep going.
Great. So I think we're just going to open up to a few questions now. We've got, well, let's do 10 minutes or thereabouts of questions. It gives the people a bit of time to hang around at the end. So I think we have a microphone. Has anybody got any questions for any of the panel at the front? You just please, for the podcast, just mention who you are and whether your obsession is with the sneakers, the kit, or both.
Okay, so my name's Denise Pearson. My business is Dene and I've been making luxury leather goods for over 40 years. Lara's my colleague. We work in the Rosendale Valley, and then it was serendipitous how we met Ben. We are now on a pathway to work with children, to offer them inspiration of craft and making, etc. But one of the questions that have been posed to us is, okay, so you work with the kids and you do classes, well, so what is for them after that? Because when I entered the trade 40 years ago, it was the leather goods trade was already dying. So my question to Ben is, for young people, what is the future? If we invest in them now and show them the skill that you have and we have and affiliated trades, what future do you think there is for them?
Well, I think with social media and the way that we can show snippets of craft, you know, within a attention span or something that is fun to watch, hopefully they want to learn to do things. I work with in at the yard with the atelier who are 20-something fashion graduates with their own brands, and they're really passionate and they look at leather work and things and see opportunities there, but there's not a lot of knowledge. So I would say the people who are the young customizers, who everyone is really interested in watching, they're learning from people like yourself and from people that you learn from, if that's possible, and that's getting harder and harder to do. So it's joining the people up. So I've worked with youngsters, but I still know that everything important that I need, whenever I need to ask a question, I have to go to somebody who's been doing it for 40 years, and I'm on about 10 years now, you know, of actually making with leather. So I had to go to Germany to meet shoemakers there to help me. And there are people out there that are open to helping younger people, and especially in this area where you're from, there's industry, shoe industry, leather industry, and it's really hard to find people, you know. And so what we need is to join those different generations and industries up with the younger people as well, because if you don't have a really good website, or if I can't even Google, you know, that and find somebody, it's not making much sense, but nearly everybody that I've met is through somebody else, and I think that's kind of like the older way of doing things, that you'd have a mixer, that you'd have exhibitions and do things like that, and you take someone's business card and all that stuff. But I don't think young people work like that, you know. They want to just go AI, they want to go, you know, where is the nearest leather supplier? And they'll find a website in London, you know, and that's it. And it's actually 5 minutes away on Bury Old Road or whatever, you know, and it's just joining those dots up. Because they already have the passion. I think they're seeing it. They just need to know it's around them. Does that answer it? Or is it?
Just one note on that. So in our experience of dealing with trying to reach young people through the brand experiences that we create, one of the things we recognise is personalisation is really important to young people for identity. And when we're driving through commodities, which we do, you know, we're doing hundreds of thousands of units, one of the things that we really recognise is when young people start to personalise, they start to look at ways of attaching to the outside of the brand, whether it's the people who embellish the item, that, you know, whether it's a jacket, whether it's a shoe, whether it's a hat, whatever, the printers and the artisans who can do it for them in smaller batches. And there's great examples at the moment in Manchester particularly. There's a great a brand called Drama in Manchester that young people are really, really into, and they're doing a very, very basic slap a logo on, make it look good, it's cool. They put a lot of time into deciding what the logo is going to sit on, but what they do, they're passionate about the identity and the tribe that they're creating. And I think that's one of the things that us older fraternity need to remember to do, is to connect with those tribes and not feel like they're the young kids, what are they up to? It's more like, let's take an interest in what makes them tick, what drives them forward, and what will allow them to have their own industry amongst each other. I'm going to go to another really great question, by the way. So I'm just going to go to one more question, if anybody's got any. Which one? This one first, and then we'll come to you.
All right,
next.
I'll go quick.
Just name and...
Yeah, I'm Joel. I do cinematography. I want to ask, how did the sensor size of the 65mm help you with new ideas, telling things in a new way compared to full frame APS-C? Like, how did the sensor size help?
Well, it just, with that size sensor, you can make any object just look absolutely insane. Just being able to have the freedom to be able to zoom in, like, just capture anything, but you can resize it, the color science, everything. Being able to pick up colors that you wouldn't usually be able to. I mean, it's just so vast, it's endless what you can do with that camera. I mean, you probably got a good touch on that
for
as
the
well.
people in the room that don't really have that concept or that level of technical knowledge, just explain what that means in terms of if you were doing this with a standard, this is what you would get. And,
Do you want to take that one?
Okay. So with when you look at the range of different cameras that are in the market, obviously there's a lot of different specifications that you're looking for, and with this camera in particular, we're working with a 65mm sensor, which is a significant size. I mean, that's a really large sensor. As I mentioned before, that would be something that typically you would use in high-end feature. There are other sensors on the market that people will be more familiar with, like yourself, with it's like full frame sensors, large format sensors, and even smaller sensors. What we're trying to achieve with that sensor is the ultimate color science, the ultimate in terms of the being able to capture the detail that's required, and that larger sensor, the color science of that camera, and what that camera does. Really enables you to dig deep into what it is that you're shooting and create something that is incredibly detailed and beautifully looking. What that also means as well is that when you take that into the post-production processing, just to kind of break that down a little bit, is that once we finish shooting with whatever it is that we're filming, all of the media that we've then recorded, then we'll go into an editing process, and then we'll go into a color correction process. The editing is, everyone knows what editing video is, but color correction is the bit where you were then able to go and make the reds look redder and the blues look bluer and so on. But I would say that color correction 10 years ago was something that was very much focused on feature film and not so much on kind of standard production. Whereas in the last 10 years, the art of color correction has become something maybe even more significant than editing. So the marriage between what we're acquiring on the sensor and then what we're able to do with that in the post-production process through color correction really is a marriage that enables you to get images like these that we're seeing behind. So does that kind of answer your question a little bit?
So would you say mainly the color detail is the big?
Well, you get the color detail dynamic range. So when we talk about dynamic range, we're talking about the whitest. If you look at that as a chart, from the whitest white all the way to the darkest black, we refer to that in video and film as stops. So there's 16 stops of dynamic range with this particular sensor, which means that that's a significant amount of information and colour that we can work from light all the way through to darks. If you look at, say, a standard off-the-shelf camera that might be in the market of a much lower cost or a more prosumer orientated camera, you might be talking 11 stops, 12 stops. So I'm sorry if that's getting a bit technical for those of you that don't really know what I'm going on about, but for somebody from a technical perspective, the colour, the RGBWY sensor which is in it, the dynamic range and all that resolution is very significant. And if you want to have a more detailed conversation about it, I'm more than happy to have that with you.
So just to bring it into the sneaker world, whenever you're cleaning your sneakers and you just need to get rid of a spot, this allows you to get rid of the spot really simply without having to damage the surrounding areas of it.
Well,
in terms of technical detail.
Well, do you know what? Equally as well, Gary, it's very unforgiving. Yeah. So what you'll see is that if you look at the skin tones, and if you actually take one of those images and you actually pause it and you look at the detail that is in the pores and in the detail of the skin, you know, it will show up all the blemishes that, you know, your skin will have. So what you have to then do is, in some ways, in the post-production process, is that you have to use the techniques to get rid of that. But obviously it works in both ways. Sometimes you want that extreme detail and other times you don't.
But you can do that without making the nose go out of shape or the ear end up on the wrong side of the head, which you would have done with lower grade camera kit. One more question?
Hi, my name is Esther, and I'm a media personality in the sports and fitness industry, but I've also started to dabble with production and everything. My question is for all three of you. So I see three people who are extremely passionate in three different things, and then you all added them together, which was really awesome. But what I'm after is, for each of you, do you have a core memory or like a core moment that really solidified your passion in what you specifically like to do?
Alex has got to go first here, doesn't he? Because he swerved the question.
Yeah. You go first.
I kind of fell into this, but for me, I think it's always been about creating things. So it doesn't really matter if it's music or if it's a video or if it's a pair of shoes. It's going down that rabbit hole and understanding the materials, the processes, and all the rest of it, and getting excited by that. That is it's peculiar to maybe not everyone, but you know, I'm not the only one out there like that. I think so. I think I could get excited about a lot of things. It's just at the moment it's shoes. Basically.
Great answer.
Yes, I think a core memory for me was when I first opened up my production studio in Manchester, and I was working very closely with Cameron, who's also in the audience, and we started dabbling in the music industry world, making music videos, and pushed it a bit further into realising that we can actually make films, and gave it a go, and yeah, I think that was my core memory of the first film that we made, and it became quite successful. So, yeah, that's a big core memory.
I'd say that for me, it's actually not necessarily the moment that I create. It's actually the moment that I see other people create. As somebody who comes from a creative background and creative content myself, but also now works with a company that creates technology, there's nothing more satisfying than seeing that 15-year-old kid who shoots something and is incredibly proud with it and shares it with the world, and everyone goes, wow, that's amazing. And I think for me, you get a huge amount of satisfaction out of what other people do with something that you're creating and giving to them, rather than the thing that you're creating yourself.
I think we're wrapping up there now. That was really good. Great questions from the audience. Thank you to all the panel. Obviously thanks to Benji, Alex, and Stuart for being here and making this happen and putting the time in, which is one of those rare things. If it was funded by passion rather than any other channel support. Thank you to everybody for coming, and also thank you to Media City Immersive Technologies Innovation Hub, which is where we are, and particularly to Black Magic Design and Alex and his production studio, and to Benji of One-of-One Workshop. We'll be around for another 10 or 15 minutes if you want to continue the conversation. It'd be great if any of you can go on and share what we've now made public. And also come back to us about anything you might want to see that you've heard it out today, but is not in the 15 minutes. And if anybody wants to see the Kegler Super, they're not here because we've put them away now. They're very precious. But I have a one-of-one pair on in blue that we made at the same time, which is what the workshop was destined to become. So if you want to look at how the next option, which is one-of-one rather than one-of-100, then I'm wearing a pair today. And I'm wearing them because I'm a collector and I have a huge collection, but I don't collect to resell, and I collect to wear, and I collect to obsess. just like a lot of people on this panel do, and I'm sure some people in the room do. So hopefully you'll find your pair at some point in the future. So thanks for coming. Appreciate your time. Oh.